listening to 91 Reasons, a journey into the twisted landscape of pop culture. Keep your hands and arms inside the podcast at all times. And now, the voice, Jeff Tucker.
It is reasonably confident to know or to think that in the summer of 1995, as Batman Forever was cleaning up at the box office and proving that Joel Schumacher's vision of the Cape Crusader was what people were looking for. You know, it was the family-friendly Batman. And I had talked in the previous episode about the meeting they must have had getting Joel Schumacher in there and the new direction it was going to take. So the new meeting must have been even bigger and grander, with bigger snacks and more martinis as they sat around the Warner Brothers boardroom, just ecstatic about the box office grosses and how they were going up every day for Batman Forever. And more importantly, how the toys were flying off the shelves and how the Riddler and Two-Face figures were impossible to find. And people were buying every variation of Batman and Robin, from Street Robin with motorcycle to every variation of any kind of color-coordinated Batman you can possibly think of. And even some that were simply the same Batman released over and over again with new accessories and new missiles that shot across the room and grappling hooks and lots of grappling hooks, and the Batmobile and the Batcave and the play sets and the Happy Meals. And finally, McDonald's was excited because they had glasses they could sell so that the kids would just go insane. Now, they didn't do toys for Batman Forever. They didn't do Happy Meals, but they did do the glasses, the mugs, which everybody bought. I bought 2 or 3 sets. What do you do with them? If you've seen these things, what are you supposed to drink out of them? Little kids don't drink coffee, so what do they drink out of these Batman Forever mugs? I don't know, hot cocoa maybe, but how many times are you going to use that? And do you really need 4, right? So they must have had this giant meeting at Warner Brothers, and they bring Joel in, and they're just clapping him on the back. Oh, Joel, the box office grosses are astounding for Batman Forever. We couldn't be happier. You know, they're smoking stogies made of $100 bills as they're going over the numbers and the figures. And, oh, Val Kilmer is not interested in doing another Batman because, you know, Joel, we're going to start this new Batman immediately. We haven't even finished the press junket for Batman Forever, but we're already going to start on a brand new Batman adventure, Batman Triumphant, they were going to call it, right? Batman Triumphant. And it was going to be just as big and just as crazy, or bigger and crazier than Batman Forever. And as they're sharing caviar and talking about all the amazing things they're going to do, I don't think they ever stopped to think that they were spiraling down. They were spiraling down into parody, self-parody, caricature. And out of this meeting, of which, you know, Joel Schumacher was there, and McGregor, the director, was there, and not director, the producer was there, and all the Warner Brothers executives and the head of production, everybody was there. And then the door opens, and there's a new guy who walks in. He's got a briefcase. He looks real important, and he strides down the boardroom, and he takes a prominent seat, and everybody looks, and they're like, we don't remember seeing this guy on the lot before. Is he with finance? Is he with the overseas distributors? Who is this guy? Oh, this guy's the most important guy at the table. This is the guy from Kenner. This is the guy from the toy company. And he's got a lot of ideas. And you're going to need to speak with him if you're going right into production, because it's going to take 2 years for the molds for these toys to have to be created in Asia out of forged steel, so that we can churn out Batmobile after Batmobile and Robin and Batman and Robin after one after the other. So we got to talk to this guy, and he opens his briefcase. He's like, hello, everybody. I'm the head of creative production for Kenner, and we have a lot of ideas, and we're here to make the movie more toyetic. Toyetic? And the word echoes down the boardroom, and everybody goes, oh, toyetic. Oh, it's a new word. What does it mean? Well, I know it's toy, and etic means of, so the movie's going to be more toys. We're actually going to flip the script here, and instead of making a movie where the stuff in it is so cool that kids are going to inevitably want to buy the toys. Instead, we're going to make the movie about the toys, and we're not going to make a move till we speak with the Kenner guy to make sure that what we're doing in the movie is going to make a good toy. Everybody's, they're so excited, and nobody's more excited than Akiva Goldsman, the screenwriter, because Joel Schumacher probably had some hesitancy. This is a guy who's made legitimate movies. He's not just a hack, or he's spiraling to that point, because, he had just shot A Time to Kill, which is not a genre picture at all. It's a movie about racial relations in the South. And he'd done St. Elmo's Fire and Flatliners. So he'd done movies that at least pretended to have some substance. And Batman Forever was just a cartoon. And here they were having a meeting where they're going to make it even more cartoony. And they're going to have the toy guy involved so that nobody makes a move until the toy guy signs off on it, because nothing is made in this movie unless it can be a toy. So Schumacher might have had some hesitancy. Now, as the director, he's got to take full responsibility. The buck stops with him, because he's the go-to between the producers, the executive producers, and the studio. So he signs off on it. The other guy's ecstatic, because Akiva Goldsman, he must be beside himself, because half the work's being done by the toy guys in the writing. Because instead of stringing together one good scene after another, he's going to string one good play set after another. One good play set after another. In an action movie, in a big genre picture, the big special effects sequences are called set pieces. And if you're listening to this podcast, you already know that. But they were going to flip it. They weren't set pieces anymore. They were play sets. Everything's a play set. So Akiva Goldsman, the hack who wrote Batman Forever and a lot of other crap, Lost in Space, he must have been just, scribbling notes furiously. We'll have a meeting afterwards. We'll have a sidebar meeting, just me and the Kenner guy, and we'll talk about all the toys he wants to put in the movie so that I can write scenes around them. So instead of just Robin getting on his motorcycle, it's going to be a showpiece of this big coffin-like apparatus rising up out of the ground. And as it opens up and it's flourished with red neon and Robin's motorcycle comes out of it, every kid who's watching it will go, I got to have that toy. Well, you're in luck, because the toy is available right now at your local toy store, your Target, your Walmart. Heck, it's available 6 weeks before the movie comes out, so you can already have it to go vroom vroom when the movie starts. Now, I'm just speculating, because I don't know what happened over at Warner Brothers, just what I know from the documentaries that I've watched. So I don't know if that meeting actually happened. But it did. It did, because if it didn't, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about what is widely considered one of the biggest cinematic turkeys of all time, Batman and Robin. This is a movie on scale with some of the biggest bombs of all time. Howard the Duck, Heaven's Gate, which you really can't compare Heaven's Gate, obviously, to Batman and Robin, right? That's not fair to Cimino. He actually was trying to do something. He just overthought what the audience was going to sit through, right? There's a difference between a slow build on a 3-hour, 4-hour movie versus the assault on the senses that Batman and Robin is. But it's a turkey. It's a big, giant, mega turkey. But it didn't have to be that way. And it didn't have to be that way if the studio had just let somebody make a movie. All right, welcome to 91 Reasons. This is the latest episode. I am the voice, Jeff Tucker. We are continuing our Batman series. And we're continuing it with, as you've been listening for the last nearly 10 minutes, Batman and Robin, the 1997 sequel to Batman Forever. I was a big Batman fan, still am, always have been. You can listen to the first episode to see where the roots of that came from. And what I like to do on this show is not just review the movie, because this movie's been reviewed to death. Nothing I say is going to be any different than what people have been saying for the last 17 years about this crap fest. So I'm not going to be covering any new ground. And it's ridiculous to get upset about a movie 17 years ago that everybody panned upon its release. It's not like I'm finding a new way to talk about Batman and Robin. But this is what we do on the show. So I'm going to tell you the emotions of going into a movie like that, what it meant at the time, and if you know me and you know the show, the toys that I collected. Because even on a turkey, like I collected all the Waterworld toys. Let that sink in. I collected all the Waterworld toys from 1995. All the Kevin Costner figures, all of the smokers and the good guys and the Dennis Hopper bad guy. And I remember getting really excited finding the rare Trimaran, which was the Waterworld vehicle that you assembled with all the little netting and you can put them on. And I used to put up full displays of all these toy lines because I was a big toy collector, still am. I'm much more refined in what I collect because I don't have room for all that stuff. But before I had kids, I collected all this stuff. So even a turkey like Batman and Robin, I had to buy some of the toys. And doesn't that say that the marketing worked? And Warner Brothers had already done this before. You know, they had a big summer nonsense with Space Jam. And I remember the Warner Brothers the executives being interviewed and saying, well, Space Jam's not a movie so much as it's an event. It's a merchandising event. So what that means is let's sell all the crap, all the Michael Jordan and all the basketball and the Looney Tunes and all that crap. And then somewhere in there's a movie. But it shouldn't be like that. No matter what you're making, if you're meeting with the toy designers before you've even put pen to paper for page 1, you have screwed up. Because a movie should be so good that you're exhilarated, that you're brought into that world, and you like it so much that when it's over, you want to take a piece of it home. You know? I loved Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'd love to buy some of those toys. Again, I don't have a lot of room. But, you know, the Milano ship with the little tiny people that go in, you can get all the little Guardian figures to put inside. That's appealing, and that's ingrained in me from Star Wars way back in 1978 when the toys finally hit the shelves. But you should be writing a fantastic movie that urges the fan base to do that, not reverse engineering it. You can't put a bunch of crazy stuff on the screen and then have the toys and not have any substance to it. That's the epitome of hollowness. You know, that's a giant chocolate bunny that's hollow. There's nothing to it. So here's what happened. Christmas 1996, the day after Christmas, my mom died. Yeah, it was pretty sad. And a month later, my son was born, my first son, Luke Skywalker. Yeah, that's right, Luke Skywalker. And I can remember going to work one day, and it must have been around March or April, and I think it was Vanity Fair. Vanity Fair did a big expose on the upcoming Batman movie. And this was exciting because I was a big Batman fan, and they really hyped this movie. It was a really early hype, and I can remember they had full-page portraits of Batman, Robin, Poison Ivy, and Mr. Freeze, and Batgirl. And I remember cutting them out of the magazine and hanging them up at work, like, look at this thing, because the big deal about the pre-release marketing hype of Batman and Robin was that Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to play a villain. And he hadn't played a villain since the first Terminator, 1984. 13 years, all he played was good guys. Remember when you saw Terminator 2 the first time? Because I saw it, that sneak preview midnight showing, and you didn't know if he was the good guy or the bad guy. You knew that there was this globby liquid metal guy. But is he the bad guy? Is he the good guy? Is Arnold what? I don't know. And then when that scene where he finally pulls the gun out of the roses, and you're like, he's going to shoot John Connor, and then he shoots the other guy. He's the good guy. What a reveal. So it was a big deal back then in 97 to find out that Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to play a bad guy. Because we were looking forward to, we wanted to see Arnie. We had seen him play every variation of hero you can imagine. From the underdog in Running Man to the confused guy in Total Recall, Raw Deal, Red Heat, Twins, Kindergarten Cop, you name it. Every kind of character we had seen except a really good villain, not since the Terminator. So there was a picture of him with the blue makeup on and the contact lens, and I just thought, it's Arnold. Arnold never steers us wrong. I was the one guy who went and saw Last Action Hero and loved it. We can have a whole show about that, can't we? But Arnold was back as a bad guy, and they had a new Batman. It was George Clooney. I wasn't a Clooney fan. I am now. But back then, he was just another pretty boy on TV who was crossing over into movies, and I wasn't impressed. I can say, looking back and having seen Clooney in action, not only in really high-quality movies, but also his humanitarian efforts and the stuff that he does for the fans, he's an impressive guy. He's actual living Bruce Wayne, you know, with all that he does and all the women that he's with, right? If we found out at some point that George Clooney was dressing up as Batman at night, no one would blink an eye and would go, well, that's just George Clooney. Of course he's Batman. He really is Batman. Have we seen George Clooney's parents? I don't know. Something to look into for the next episode, right? But we had Chris O'Donnell back as Robin, and, you know, I've never really been a Chris O'Donnell fan. I get that he's popular on TV now, but it took a long time for him to get there. He never really made a movie that I connected with. You know, I didn't really care for Scent of a Woman. Wasn't he in Men Don't Leave? And wasn't that a Hollywood saloon like you must see Men Don't Leave? I've never seen it. It's one of those weird movies that the next time I see it, I'm going to pick it up simply because the Hollywood Saloon told me I have to watch this movie. I worked at the video store when it came out, and I was like, the title's dumb, the cover art is boring, the cast is uninspiring. So I've never seen that movie. I think Chris O'Donnell's, if he's not, you know, IMDb, but like I said, when I do this show, I don't take any notes. I'm not on IMDb while I'm on the show here. So you're getting 80-20. So maybe that's part of the 20 that I'm wrong, right? But the other addition was Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl. And this was bewildering. This was head-scratching because in 1997, there were a lot of really popular actresses. Really popular good actresses, and no offense if you're a fan of this woman, but Alicia Silverstone was never on that list. I never got the point of Clueless. I didn't get it. I can't think of a single Alicia Silverstone movie that I could watch and actually, you know, be entertained. There's a whole host. I could do a whole episode of mega popular actors and actresses that have huge careers that I scratch my head. I don't get it. And she's way up there because she talks crooked. Her eyes are kind of vacant in a lot of scenes, and I don't get it. I never got it. It's just a weird thing. So they had this big mega cast announced way in advance of Batman and Robin, and the toys started showing up on toy shelves. Now, if you know me, if you know this show, the toys are a big part of the movie experience for me. I just did a whole tirade, right? So I can remember seeing the Batman and Robin toys when they hit the shelves way in advance of the movie, and I wasn't impressed. You know, they're really cheap looking. For the standard of the day that was the toys that were coming out in 1997, these were pretty. They look like knockoffs. The packaging is bland and uninspired. The logo is atrocious with the bat symbol, and it's covered up by Robin's symbol. And the toys themselves are really cheaply made. They don't have a lot of moving parts. They don't look anything like the actors they're supposed to be. They look almost as if these toys were put into production way in advance of even casting the movie, which Other than in toy form, other than Chris O'Donnell, Chris O'Donnell's the only carryover from Batman Forever in toy form, because they never made Alfred. They're not going to make Commissioner Gordon. Pat Hingle gave us a signal. Oh, it's Poison Ivy. I mean, he's awful. No one wants that toy. Even if he's the short packed one per case rare figure, nobody wants it. So the toys were bland. The Poison Ivy figure doesn't look. It just is a woman with red hair, and the Batgirl figure, because these were made so far in advance, the Batgirl figure doesn't even look like Alicia Silverstone's costume. They switched it, and the toys were like, well, Kenner was like, well, we've already made these. These have to come out. We have no other option. So, if you're expecting this almost Adam West version of Batgirl, Yvonne Craig, you're not getting it in the movie. The toy looks okay. I mean, it's generic, but the one in the movie is the big blonde hair with the little eye mask. And I remember looking at the toys, and especially, as a Batman fan, when there's a big movie coming out and the toys are coming, the big thing is the Batmobile. Because what are you going to do different to a Batman figure? They all look the same. It's all Batman, right? Like I said, it's all Batman with bigger, stranger-looking guns and whatever. And the Mr. Freeze figure was, I can remember it. There were two or three, and the first one that hit the shelves was uber thin. Like it looked like Patrick Stewart was playing Mr. Freeze. Definitely not Arnold Schwarzenegger. It took quite a while. It took after the film was released for an Arnold Schwarzenegger, even remotely looking figure to come out. And they never updated Poison Ivy. They never updated Batgirl. And again, Batman and Robin are pretty just generic. It's just whatever a giant accessory they can stick in the blister card with him, right? But the Batmobile, there's the carded figures are on the pegs, and the accoutrements. There's always a utility belt toy, and I think they had some miniature micros because, gosh, do you remember that fad in the 90s when all the toys were like micro because of Mighty Max? They made everything in micro. Star Wars Micro Machines came out, and there was Mighty Max and Polly Pocket, and then Kenner had the Microverse with all the Batman stuff, and then one shelf down, there's the Batmobile. And I remember picking it up and going, what the hell is this? Maybe this is, maybe it didn't translate well into toys? Maybe the one in the movie is so complicated that Kenner just couldn't figure out how to make it into a toy because it's way too long for a car. It's got a visible engine in the front, and not only is Batman visible, there's no roof, but it only seats one. It only seats one? Wait a minute. In Batman Returns, Batman Forever, the car seats two. In the first one, Vicky Vale rides alongside with him, right? Well, you finally have a movie called Batman and Robin, and you make a one-seater? I thought this was a joke. I thought this can't be, and I didn't buy it because it's really ugly. I've seen the toy version, I saw the movie, and I've seen the George Clooney Batmobile in person, and it's not an attractive car. The Burton one's the best because it just looks like it has power, and the Kilmer one is silly looking, but at least parked, it's striking. When it's driving and that big fin is wobbling, like I said in the last show, it's goofy. And when it drives up a building, it's even goofier. But the Clooney one, boy, this poor guy. I mean, not to say poor Clooney, because give me a break. The guy was paid uber amounts of money to be in this crap fest. He probably still gets residual checks from it, and it's never bothered him a day to make this movie. So, poor Clooney, whatever. And it's probably not even him in the car other than the first scene. He gets this ugly, ugly Batmobile. And you see I'm losing my train of thought because I'm so irritated at this movie. How How does he drive around Gotham incognito in a giant car convertible, not even convertible, open air car with a Day-Glo rainbow engine that shoots light out? See, this is the problem when you have the toy people dictating what the movie's going to be about. Because what looks good in a toy never looks good in real life. And it's never practical. You know, Mattel had the toy license for Man of Steel, and they made a utility belt for Superman. A what? A utility belt for Superman with like Superman throwing stars and a flashlight or something. I don't know. And a Superman samurai sword. It's as if they're not even paying attention. The reason movie merchandising even exists today is because of Star Wars. Nobody did that kind of merchandising before Star Wars. They did little tiny stuff. You know, they like I've said before, Dr. Dolittle had a lot of merchandise that rotted on shelves for years. But Star Wars was the first one that said, hey, people want this stuff. But we only wanted it because it was a recreation of what we'd seen on screen. And I don't think Superman either had a utility belt or a samurai sword in Man of Steel. And if he did, he was too busy killing innocent Metropolis citizens to use it. Or maybe he used it on him and he was so fast I didn't see it. But the Batmobile and Batman and Robin is ugly. Now, this whole diatribe on Batman and Robin is almost like it's fish in a barrel. You know, it's too easy. I'm being a bully. So let's just get that out of the way. At the 20-something minute mark, almost 30 minutes, I'm being a bully. Everything's been said about this movie, but I'm going to plow through because I saw this movie in an effort to lighten my mood after my mother died and to escape back into being a child because I was suddenly a father. And all I had that summer was Batman and Robin and Men in Black, which I'm not really a fan of, and Jurassic Park, The Lost World, which is really bad. If I ever get to doing Jurassic Park, a series on, or even just an episode on Jurassic Park, spoiler alert, I thought the first one was a masterpiece. What the hell happened in the second one? So when I talk about Batman and Robin, it's simply because as a fan of Batman, as a fan of superhero movies, this film effectively killed them all. It killed superhero movies in general and Batman in particular, because 97, it would be 8 years, 2005, before we would get another Batman movie out of Warner Brothers. Can you imagine having a franchise that valuable and sitting on it for 8 years because the stink of the prior film is so bad? If you release something any sooner, it doesn't matter how good it is, nobody's going to go see it. That's how bad Batman and Robin is. This is a terrible, terrible movie from scene one. And the reason it's bad is not only the toy element, which is number one, but it's also because Akiva Goldsman has no clue what to do with all of these characters. And because he's such a fanatic about sticking to the formula and not taking any risks, we get conflict when there shouldn't be any. And we get chaotic storytelling when it should just tell us the story. Just tell us what's going on. Batman and Robin opens with, Batman and Robin fighting. They're fighting over the Batmobile, which wouldn't be an issue if they just built it with 2 seats. Do you think Batman would put up with any sentence out of Robin's mouth about the Batmobile that could be silenced with, you know what, Dick, you're right. We should have a car with 2 seats. We should ride together. We're going to be partners on this. We should ride together. And instead, this is why Superman works alone, is what George Clooney says. And look at that scene. He's so uncomfortable in the Batsuit. And it's not his fault. That Batsuit looks like he is an action figure. he can barely move. It's so glossy and so overdone and so oversculpted that it looks like the guy can barely move. And same with Robin. Robin's outfit looks like it was designed by Nike, and he can barely move in it. And they're expected to get in the car and drive off and get the motorcycle. And they're summoned to the Gotham Museum where Mr. Freeze is stealing a big diamond. And when I saw this in the theater, I think I've said this before, but it bears saying again. When the lights dim on a movie, I am an eternal optimist. I cannot wait for the movie to begin. When I was a kid, I would squint so that it looked like the lights were going out and the movie was going to start just now. I need to start right now. I don't want to wait. I don't want any commercials. I like the trailers. I've always been a fan of the trailers. It's different now that you can see trailers online, but as a movie-going kid, the trailers were only available to theater, so they were a big deal. But I just love going to the movies. I love escaping into other worlds. And Batman and Gotham is a world worth escaping into. But not this one. Not this one at all. And the first sign of trouble in this movie, like it opens with Batman and Robin fighting, but there's nothing that hints at we're just at the tip of the iceberg of badness here. Because when they get to the museum, not only does it look like a complete ridiculous movie set, but Batman drops in out of the sky and says, "Hey, Freeze, I'm Batman." Like, he's introducing himself. This guy's robbing antiquities. You don't introduce yourself. Well, you do, because as you're probably going to hear me say many, many times in this episode, this is a kid's movie. They made this movie for kids. But I hate when they put that moniker on it as if kids don't deserve good movies. Kids don't deserve good storytelling, characters with arcs. The best kids' movies have compelling stories, great characters, a little danger. Willy Wonka has all of that, and it's fantastic, and it stood the test of time. There are no kids who come home and go, "Man, we got to watch Batman and Robin again." And how sad is that? It's become blasé in the 17 years since its release to just bash on this movie. But think about it for a minute. They made a big mega budget, 100 million plus Batman and Robin movie. And it's not even worth watching twice. Unless it's a goof. Unless you've got riff tracks on or you're having a drinking game. And that's what should make you angry about this movie. Not that it's bankrupt of anything worth watching, but that they screwed up so royally on Batman and Robin. This should have been a fantastic movie. All the elements were in place to make a good movie. And they just decided to ignore it in favor of characters introducing themselves. "I'm Batman." And then he slides down a dinosaur, and you can almost hear the Flintstone theme playing as he flies off the tail. Like, who thought this was a good idea? I've been involved in semi-big productions with fight sequences. And if somebody had suggested something like that and we had the money to do it, I would have said, well, that's a terrible idea. That's stupid. Why are we going to waste a minute of our time on that? And then we're treated to the first of many, many ice puns said by Mr. Freeze, because for whatever reason, Akiva Goldsman decided to turn Mr. Freeze into the ultimate parody of Arnold Schwarzenegger. And every action has to be punctuated by some witty quip. And the reason those witty quips work in those Schwarzenegger movies is that for the most part, they don't seem forced. They seem as if they're an organic part of the movie. When he says, "I'll be back" in the Terminator, it's great because he's not kidding around. He is coming back. "I'm the party crasher." "I'm the party pooper." There's so many good Arnold lines. Not so many in Last Action Hero. Some of those they're so embarrassing. There's a line in Last Action Hero where he throws a guy into an ice cream truck, and he turns and he says, "Iced that guy," to cone a phrase. But that's supposed to be parody. So at least you can shrug and go, it's parody. It's parody. It's not real. They're making fun of those things in movies. When he hits a guy in the crotch and he goes, "Are you a farmer? Here's a couple acres." That's supposed to be parody. In Batman and Robin, Mr. Freeze goes so far beyond parody, so far into the realm of self-caricature. Like, it's almost as if he's just winking at the crowd, like, this would look good on a T-shirt, won't it? This would look good on a T-shirt, won't it? You know? And Robin busts in on his motorcycle, and he creates a Robin symbol in the wall that crashes behind. You know, like when Roger Rabbit jumps out the window and the blinds and the glass make the shape of him, and that's funny because he's a cartoon character. It's not the same kind of funny when it's a guy on a motorcycle who crashes through. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's just spectacle for spectacle's sake, and stupid spectacle. Because I don't think any kid in the audience went, "Oh, wow, he broke it's the Robin symbol behind it." Nobody did that. Everybody said, "How the hell did he do that with a motorcycle coming through the middle? What are those walls made of? It's a stencil? It's a big stencil, right?" But, you know, Schumacher's like, "Cut, we've got it, it's perfect. Let's move on." And then, you know, the minute the movie goes, we're like 6 or 7, 8 minutes into the movie, and it goes completely over the precipice with Arnold's line of "Kill the heroes, kill the heroes, kill the heroes." Akiva Goldsman, you're never going to listen to this. You're too busy swimming in your Scrooge McDuck vault full of money gotten from writing all of this crud. But I have to ask, on the slim chance that somebody who knows somebody who saw Akiva pass out at 31 Flavors, since it's pretty serious, no problem whatsoever, that maybe somebody could ask him, were you for real? Was this a first draft written on like the back of a paper sack? Who writes this? Who writes this? If I wrote this, nobody would read it. If I had written Batman and Robin, you know what? Somebody should do a scientific experiment on screenwriters and budding young filmmakers, people who may not have seen this movie, and write it out. Get the script and hand it to them and go, "Hey, we're thinking of rebooting Batman with this. What do you think?" They would look at you like you're insane. They would look at you and say, "You can't make this movie. It's embarrassing on paper. You should know what you should do? You should drive to the city limits. Go one city out into the desert. Go 30 or 40 more feet. Start a bonfire, a good raging bonfire. And at the height of its power and heat, throw this script in and then run so that the ashes don't get on you." That's what they would say. And instead, it became a shooting script where Batman and Robin fall to the ground because the museum has been frozen over in ice. And when they click their heels, ice blades pop out. And they're able to skate around the museum and play hockey with a giant diamond. It's hard to believe this movie exists. It's hard to believe I'm even talking about this in a form that says you can go watch it, and not just, well, this is like Superman Reborn. It was never made. No, this was made. This movie was released with a toy line and toys everywhere and costumes and you name it. And the Warner Brothers store had high-end collectibles for it. And I know because I was there a year later and picked up the Uma Thurman Poison Ivy maquette for like $6, marked down from $150. What the hell was I going to do with it? I don't know. But $6, even a crappy movie, it's still a statue of Uma Thurman, I guess. I don't know. Now, I've watched all the documentaries on this movie, so I know that Joel Schumacher apologized. The reason I bought that box set, I bought a box set of movies I mostly owned. I would never own Batman and Robin otherwise. But the documentary is amazing because Schumacher looks at the camera and says, "I'm sorry." You know who doesn't say "I'm sorry"? Akiva Goldsman doesn't say he's sorry. Instead, you have to watch this to believe it. You have to watch this documentary to believe it. Akiva Goldsman looks in the camera. Now, this was released in 2005. This box set was released, I think, to capitalize on the release of Batman Begins. So either he had seen this or a trailer, or the movie was far enough along that he knew the gist of it and what they were doing, rebooting the Batman story. And he all but takes credit for what Christopher Nolan did with Batman Begins by saying that if it wasn't for Batman and Robin being so bad and the movie being so awful that it killed the franchise, you would never have somebody come along and make Batman Begins. He actually says that in the documentary. Are you kidding, Mr. Goldsman? Are you joking? You're saying that it's a good thing that Batman and Robin was so bad so that somebody could watch it and be inspired to do better? So is that like saying that the next big ship that was inspired after Titanic sank, it's good that Titanic sank and all those people died because we got this much nicer ship out of it? And did I really just compare the release of Batman and Robin to the disaster of the Titanic? I think I did. I'm sorry. I apologize to anybody who was offended by that. That's what he says. And maybe he's right. But what does that say about all the people who labored on this movie? The credits for this film go on 3 days because there's so much going on in this movie that the actors themselves were not even clear on what they were doing. Chris O'Donnell says in the documentary that he never even worked a day with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Can you believe that? He never worked a day. He was on set and saw Arnold working and hung out with him and chatted, but Robin and Mr. Freeze never worked together on the film. If you watch the movie knowing that, it's painfully obvious, because in the museum scene at the beginning, other than a few punches with Batman and the gun getting thrown around, Mr. Freeze is just basically shot by himself. Like Arnold showed up one day, finished all his shots, and then they went and filmed the rest of the museum sequence without him, because the thing you need to know about Batman and Robin and why it's such a mess is that if you don't see George Clooney, Arnold Schwarzenegger, or Chris O'Donnell's face, it's not them doing the scene. It's second unit, third unit. They had so many Batmans and Robins working around the clock to finish this movie on time that you're not really looking at a performance by an actor. You're looking at a thing created by a team, and sometimes that works because everybody working together to create Gollum in Lord of the Rings, the end justified the means. And Gollum lives and breathes. But in Batman and Robin, 10 people portraying Batman, all it does is you start to squint and see his face and go, well, that's not Clooney. And in some of the scenes of Mr. Freeze, it's painfully obvious it's not him. The driving scenes in particular. At the end of Back to the Future, that guy in a George Washington wig that drives the DeLorean up Marty's driveway, the Mr. Freeze scenes are that bad. Like, it's so not him. They did all this work to make this guy up to look like Arnold, but the reason Arnold Schwarzenegger is so famous and so revered is that he has a look that can't be duplicated. If you could duplicate the look of Arnold Schwarzenegger, there would have been 10 or 15 of them running around. The only way that they even managed to come up with new action heroes back in the day was a gimmick, Steven Seagal, Jean-Claude Van Damme, but none of them looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he has a look all his own. So when a goofy guy with blue makeup drives by and whatever the hell that is Mr. Freeze drives, it's not him. And for that matter, all the scenes of Batman and Robin running and jumping and fighting and grappling on everything, it's not the actors. Stunt double. The big iconic scene at the end of the movie with Batman and Robin and Batgirl running in silhouette in front of the bat signal, it's not them. And you know it's not them because you can't see their face. And it's not like Spider-Man where, well, we know that's Tobey Maguire even though his face is covered. It's simply not them. This is the ultimate, this is as close as you can get to doing an animated movie in live action, in real life. Because you get a big paycheck and then you go see the movie and you're like, well, that's not even me. I'm getting paid all this money. It's not even me on the screen. But the movie progresses, and I'm going to try to plod through this. It's as tedious as the film itself, but I'm hoping you're energized by my anger at this thing that Uma Thurman and John Glover are yucking it up out in the rainforest, and Bane is there, and you get to see him create. And poor Jeep Swenson, the guy who played Bane, I remember when the movie came out, they made such a big deal that his dream in life was to be a Batman villain. And here he is. He's Bane. He's growling. And the poor guy died 2 months after the movie came out. At least he lived his dream, and maybe he was shielded from all of the awfulness that the press did when the film came out, because this movie was universally panned by everybody, and rightfully so. And the funniest is the aftermath, where George Clooney had stated that he had played the whole thing as if Bruce Wayne was gay. And if you watch the movie knowing that, he is. The scene where Elle Macpherson tries to get her to marry her, he basically tells her, hey, I do a lot of things that don't involve you, and you don't want to know about it. I'm not the marrying kind. And the subtext is, I like men. And there's nothing wrong with that, but we've never explored that side of Batman, have we? Oh, there were the allegations. What's he doing with that young man, right? That young Robin is in danger. And Clooney does have some fun with the role by calling Robin Dick a lot. We're not going to do that tonight, Dick. And it's so obvious what he's saying. Again, it's a children's movie, isn't it? It's made for children. Yeah, sure it is. It is. We got to keep everybody entertained. Uma Thurman's the only woman in any Batman movie to appear in a crop top and dance around like it's really sexual. The whole movie's really weirdly sexual in a way that's uncomfortable, knowing that they were aiming for kids. Poison Ivy's butt is shown off in 2 or 3 scenes. She wears rubber for most of the movie, where you're accentuating all her curves. It opens with, you've seen the scene where you see Batman and Robin's butt, and then their crotches are put right in screen as they're getting dressed. It's all very fetish. Like, there's a lot of fetish work going on in it, from leather and rubber and it's just weird, but not in the entertaining dark way that Catwoman was portrayed. Instead, Uma Thurman plays Poison Ivy as if she's Mae West. And I love Uma Thurman. She's been amazing in movies. What is she doing in this film? Hey, come over here, Batman. Like, who talks like that? What's going on? Why is she a caricature? And she keeps blowing the pheromones from her hand, this pink dust that flies around everybody. And I swear the first time I saw it, I thought they were like in the cartoons. When a magnet or really good food manifests itself in a cartoon as hands, and they're beckoning the whoever it is to come closer, come close. I swear to God, that's what I thought was going on. But watching it again, like, it's just, I don't know what it is. Pheromones, and they're supposed to be taken in by her, and Batman and Robin, who were already fighting. Now remember, this is again where we have to take Akiva Goldsman to task, because at the beginning of the movie, Batman and Robin are already in conflict. It's not as if they have this, we're a team and we fight alongside each other, and then Poison Ivy shows up and she's wedged between them, and there's the conflict. Because that's in there. That is in the movie. But they're already in conflict, so it comes off as, again, too many cooks in the kitchen. Too many plots going on. Well, what's the conflict? Is the conflict that Bruce Wayne won't trust Dick Grayson, and that's why he's angry? Or is the conflict that they're both wowie-bowied by Poison Ivy's pheromones, that they're fighting over her? Which is it? You know? And in a movie where Batman and Robin surf out of the sky down rooftops and defy all known laws of logic, not only do we not have logic in gravity and space, but we have no logic in how the characters are acting with each other. And I think that's why this movie comes off so bad, because it's not just one of these things that derails it. Instead, it's everything. Everything is derailed. Nothing is the same tonally in the movie from one scene to the next. 1 minute, it's a goofy scene of whatever. There's goofiness abound in it, and then in the next scene there's goofiness in that. In one scene, Alfred is portrayed as Max Headroom, where he's moving back and forth on a computer screen and his words are stuttering, just like Max Headroom. What? Whose idea was this? You know, but that goofiness, and then right on top of it, there's a scene where Bruce Wayne is talking to Alfred, and he looks across the room and sees himself as a young child, and Alfred is reading a book to him, and he remembers that amazing moment they had together of bonding, and like, well, what is the movie about, man? I ask Akiva and Joel, what's the movie about? Because none of these scenes connect to each other. It's one illogical scene, and then they take a left turn in the next scene, and then a right turn the next. Nothing adds up. Conflict everywhere. You know, there's conflict between Dick Grayson and Bruce Wayne when the movie starts, right? But there's also conflict in that, for some reason, in this film, Poison Ivy, whose goal it is to have the world overrun by plants and turn the whole world into the rainforest, teams up with Mr. Freeze, whose ultimate goal is to turn the whole world into snow and ice. Well, how can this be? How can these guys get together and go, well, my plan is to have the plants take over. Well, my plan is to freeze everything. Well, what is it? You can't have both. You can't have both. It's either one or the other. How can the script be about both? Trying to dissect this movie is like, it's like Inception. It's a movie. It's a crappy movie within a crappy movie within a crappy movie. Because there's so many layers of why it's bad that you're not sure, like, which is the defining layer of badness? You know, which is the disease? I know that this guy had 10 diseases, doctor, but which one killed him? That's what it is. That's what it is. And you know, there's the subplot of Batgirl races motorcycles, and she's Alfred's niece, but not really. You know, he was friends with her mom, so she called him uncle. Like, it's all muddy, and we're not really certain. And people react to Alicia Silverstone as if she's unbelievably good looking, and you're like, wait a minute. Listen, I'm not going to buy this ever again. This is the last time I'm going to buy anybody in a superhero movie looking at a girl like that and oohing and awing. Oh, wait a minute. Spider-Man does the same thing, right? Poor Peter Parker's bamboozled by the amazing, colossal good looks of Kirsten Dunst. What? Again, everything's illogical. Gotham City is 10,000 stories high with freeways running everywhere. Mr. Freeze and gang lead Batman and Robin on a chase through the streets and down a giant arm where they launch themselves off a giant hand, the fingers. This really happens. Batman wrecks the Batmobile yet again. It's frozen. It wrecks. And the only reason it's frozen and it gets wrecked is so he can drive something new. You know, it wasn't like in Batman Returns where it was a plot device to destroy the Batmobile for a real reason. This is just, you know, we've had 40 minutes of this car. It's time to destroy it and get something new. Oh, great. So that in the finale, he can have this big white snow vehicle that they only use to drive down the street for one tiny action scene. It's ridiculous. What about the fact that Mr. Freeze keeps stealing diamonds because the diamond-powered lasers keep him cold? Every single movie I have ever seen featuring a laser, starting with Goldfinger. Lasers are hot. They're always portrayed as hot. This is a throwaway line. Well, he uses the diamonds to power the lasers to keep him cold. And then you just move on past it. Nobody stops and says, what? No, wait a minute. I've seen movies. Lasers are hot. When are they cold? This laser's cold and it's run by diamonds? And he keeps having to put diamonds in his suit? Oh, give me a break. And how is it at the end when, spoiler alert, Mr. Freeze is captured and he ends up being Poison Ivy's cellmate wearing his diamond-powered armor? Who's paying for that? What taxpayer's getting that bill? Well, he needs diamonds every day to power his armor to keep him cold. I don't know. Maybe get him an ice chest then. It might be cheaper. I don't know. This film features such bewildering moments as Robin being strangled by vines and pulled underwater. And if you've got this movie, you've got to watch this scene because they didn't have footage of him coming up and then going back under the water. So instead, they just rock the footage back and forth. They rock the footage. It's the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen. It's so obvious what's happening on screen. They're just rocking the footage back and forth because the water goes backwards. The water goes backwards. Are you kidding me? And during that climactic scene, Batman is hung upside down by vines, and Robin's pulled underwater. So it's up to Batgirl to save the day. Now, she becomes Batgirl by one of the worst plot devices ever in a movie, and that's the tapping on a keyboard to get the password scene. How many times do we have to go through this scene before we get it? Just have her get the password from somebody. I don't know. Something. Anything but incorrect password. Incorrect password. One try left. Oh my gosh, she's only got one try left. Let's put the right password in. Oh, she got it. It's just filler. In a movie full of filler. It's filler that's completely unnecessary, as most filler is, but even more so in this case. So she gets in the Batcave, and you see Alfred as Max Headroom going, intruder alert, and there's lasers everywhere, but there's no repercussions. It's not like it's a Joel Schumacher movie. Anything could happen. It's not like a cage falls out of the sky on top of her, or the ground opens. I don't know. Or they release bats. Anything could happen. Instead, the programmed Alfred thing tells her, I've been expecting you, child, and I've designed you a costume. What? Catwoman, we saw her make her costume. Alfred's got like some tailor hidden somewhere to make these costumes. And that's the other thing that really bogs this movie down, and that's how accessible Batman is. And at the opening of the movie, the police are calling him for help. They're not even going in until Batman gets there. They need him now. He's like the top cop on the force, right? And Barbara Gordon can get into the Batcave very easily. Nothing's hidden. Batman's he's very accessible, and that's no truer than in the sequence at the big gala ball. Because remember, all four of these Batman movies have to have a gala ball for some reason. Filmmakers in this time period, when they made these movies, were addicted to this sequence. A big, expensive ball. Now, the one in Batman and Robin is beyond the pale because it's bright, it's colorful, it has natives, and for some reason, Uma Thurman emerges from a giant monkey suit. Like, it's so stupid. But it culminates in a bidding war over a date with Poison Ivy, like they do for charities. And Batman and Robin are outbidding each other, and it finally gets so high that, and you know what I'm going to say, he pulls out the Bat credit card. And he says, don't leave the cave without it. Well, not only is this stupid, and it's really stupid, but this wrecks everything. In a movie that was already wrecked, this is the fire that erupts after the car is wrecked, where you really better get away because it's going to blow up now. How can Batman have a credit card? Where does the bill go? Who pays the bill? What kind of interest rate does he get? Is somebody monitoring his purchases? How stupid is this? But remember, it's a children's movie. Well, again, even children deserve logic. And they don't deserve things that are just there for that sake. This is not Airplane. In Airplane, it's flexible, moldable reality. So that when you do something completely illogical like the inflatable autopilot, it's okay. It's funny. It's hilarious, as a matter of fact. But when Batman pulls out his credit card in Batman and Robin, it's simply just it's a joke for nobody, because nobody laughed, and if they did, it was for the wrong reasons. Nobody's laughing, Joel. And I know you've moved past it. You've made a dozen movies since then. Big stars, big this, big that. Who cares? Because like Akiva Goldsman says, if you didn't have Batman and Robin, you wouldn't have Batman Begins. Oh, well, you know what? Let's, as a fan base, as a collective Batman fan base, let's all get a card for Akiva Goldsman, a big thank you card, and mail it to him and say, you know what? Thank you so much for the cinematic mess that is Batman and Robin, so that Batman could go away for 7 years from the movie theater so that we could get Batman Begins. We owed Akiva Goldsman a debt of gratitude. What a humanitarian to do this to us. This is the equivalent of you asked for it. This is the equivalent of you wore the wrong outfit and you were asking for it. Are you kidding me, Akiva Goldsman? Are you joking? All we wanted was a good Batman movie. And they had a fifth one planned right out the gate. They had a fifth one planned. When this one's title changed from Batman Triumphant to Batman and Robin, they had that Batman Triumphant title ready to go. I would guess either summer 99 or summer 2000, they were going to unveil the whole cast returning to battle the Scarecrow. And they had a lot of big names. Jeff Goldblum was rumored to be the Scarecrow. Howard Stern was rumored to be the Scarecrow. But this movie was just so bad, and I know that the merchandise just floundered, that Warner Brothers was like, we're not making that. The Batman topic is off limits. We're not going to do it. And they turned their attentions to Superman, and they spent all that money not only on the Tim Burton version, but the J.J. Abrams version, and everybody got paid for movies that didn't get made. And I think we can all thank Batman and Robin for that. So we do have things to thank for it, Akiva. We have lots to be thankful for your big turkey of a movie, dude. But you showed us, because you wrote Da Vinci Code. You took a really entertaining book and made one of the most drab, boring movies I've ever seen. The book is a breakneck speed chase through Paris, and the movie is just Tom Hanks in a bad wig running around, and all the weight of the book is just lifted out. It's not even there. That's all Akiva Goldsman does. He's a screenwriter vampire. Because if there's anything good in the source material, Da Vinci Code, Batman, he's going to suck the life right out of it. All the fun and the life. And it's funny to say he sucked all the fun out of it, because Batman and Robin should have been fun. If that's the movie they were going to make, it should have been fun. And it's not fun. It's not fun at all, because every scene that involves fun and frivolity is backed up by, like I said, another illogical scene of terror, of things that shouldn't be in the movie, you know? It shouldn't be there, you know? When John Glover pushes Uma Thurman into the chemicals to kill her, like he's going to murder that woman. He's already turned the little wimpy guy into Bane, like in a horrific Frankenstein-looking scene, and is followed up by pushing her into the chemicals. Like, this is a violent movie. It's not for kids. Oh, I'm sorry. It's for kids. It's a kids' movie. But it's not. You know, because kids don't want that. And no joke, in a few of the scenes, there's even cartoon sound effects. You know, when they, when Batman and Robin throw something at the bad guys in the museum, it actually goes like, ring! Makes a little cartoon noise. Whose idea was that? Was it the guy who put all those reaction shots in those James Bond movies? Another nod to the Hollywood Saloon, right? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? It exists. You can watch it. It's a big bore fest. You know, everybody's best intentions were destroyed in this movie. There's a scene where Mr. Freeze is leading a sing-along of He's Mr. Freeze-Meister from the Year Without a Santa Claus movie. And excuse me, he's wearing fuzzy slippers and smoking a cigar. How is he smoking? How is Mr. Freeze smoking? He can't be in normal air. He has to be kept at a certain temperature to stay alive. He's smoking. I know Arnie smokes, so that's why it's in there. But how does Mr. Freeze smoke? And why are his henchmen using TV dinners on forks that are frozen still and pretending to lick them and eat them, singing along, He's Mr. Freeze? What? What's going on? What's... See, there's that kids movie thing. That's definitely kids movie. You know what's not kids movie? When Batman and Robin are fighting over Poison Ivy and Batman actually says to Robin, I want her so bad I can taste her. That's an actual line of dialogue from that movie. Akiva Goldsman, ladies and gentlemen. Dialogue. You know what? He's not a writer as much as he is a wordsmith. He's a wordsmith. And you know what? You know what the biggest thing? Not only is Akiva Goldsman not in any way apologetic for his movie, but even more despicable is the woman who does all the production design on it. And in that documentary I watched, to her, this was a fantastic movie. And everything they did was a home run. And you're struck by how pompous she sounds, pontificating on and on about all the production design. It's like, wait a minute. Did you watch this movie? Because you know what? I bet on set it was amazing. I bet these sets in person were so impressive, so large, and so overpowering that you must have felt like, wow, it's all real. How amazing. But you know what? Unless you're building a theme park, it don't count. Because what only counts is what's on the screen. And what they did with all those amazing sets and model work and props and cars and motorcycles and costumes doesn't add up to anything good and anything worth reminiscing about. The only thing that anybody should be reminiscing about was their paycheck. Because that's all it was. Everybody got paid. Every executive... Akiva got paid, Schumacher got paid, all the stars got paid, and Kenner got paid because once those toys are shipped, the check's in the mail, right? They don't care if it goes to clearance. Now, they do care if they're not replenishing over and over and over again to get as many figures into the market as possible. But when you make an uninspired toy line based on a drab, uninspired movie, what are you going to do? And isn't that the key word? Isn't that why it's so sad that a movie with so much color on the screen and so much talent is described so offhandedly as drab? That's the part that's so bad. That all the best intentions of everybody involved in this turkey added to nothing. Added to a movie that people walked out of. The funniest thing I can say about Batman and Robin is that when it came out in 97... I had a friend who knew how to get good bootleg movies. This is back when you had to go down to downtown LA. There was no internet, no downloading, no Pirate Bay, no BitTorrent. If you wanted a movie, you drove down to LA and you looked for the guys on the street corner with the boxes of videotapes. And this girl, Michelle, she used to come back with every movie. Now, she'd had all kinds of major releases, right? And the way they got them was they sent somebody in the theater with a video camera, and they just taped it. So it was flickery. Sometimes it was crooked. Almost every single time people were walking back and forth, and their shadows looked like Mystery Science Theater. Or they would laugh and cheer at the movie, and it was kind of distracting. But if you wanted to relive it before it came out officially, that was your only way. And I'm not saying pirate movies. That the guy in the corner with the videotape is long gone from the pop culture landscape, right? But she got a copy of Batman and Robin, and she brought it to work. And I worked at a place where we were doing a show and acting, and there was a lot of downtime. And in the downtime, we would watch these movies. And we were struck because out of all the movies that she had brought in, Batman and Robin was crystal clear, and there was nobody in the theater. And it was quiet, so you only watched the movie. So it didn't make the movie any better. But it was weird and striking in how different it was from the other bootlegs. So we just assumed, as we're watching it, that whoever this guy was with the video camera, that he had managed to get an empty screening, which would have been amazing because she had this videotape not 5-6 days after release. I'd already seen it in the theater, so I wasn't, running to watch her videotape. But if it's on, what are you going to do? Maybe it's better. Some movies get better at home. Austin Powers, I hated in the theater. At home, I thought it was hysterical. Watched it 1,000,000 times. But we're watching this copy of Batman and Robin, and no joke, at the end, the entire audience got up and left. It was a full house. There wasn't a chuckle. There wasn't a guffaw. There wasn't a cheer. The entire audience sat stone-faced while this thing unspooled on the screen. And if that doesn't say it all, nothing does. An opening week audience on a big, mega franchise movie, and nobody says a word. And everybody walks out of the theater with their head down like, what just happened? Hey, it's Batman and Robin, kids. It's for kids. It's a kids movie. Well, as you can probably tell, I'm running out of voice, and we're going to put this episode to bed. It's an entire hour plus devoted only to Batman and Robin. We may take a break next week from the Batman episodes and come up with something different. Who knows? I don't know. I've got a few episodes in the can, but I'm always recording new ones. So we will keep the 91 Reasons journey going, folks. I hope you're along for the ride. I hope you like what we're doing here. We're trying to do something a little different than some of the other podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I hear a lot of people laughing at jokes that aren't funny and saying they're going to talk about a topic and then not talking about it. So I'm trying to be different here. I just had a conversation with a guy at work. When I told him what I was doing, he was like, well, who's your co-host? And I said, I don't have a co-host. Well, you got to have a co-host. I said, why? Well, you got to have someone to bounce ideas off of and talk to. And I said, well, I don't need that. I'm just talking to myself. I'm talking to myself over an hour at a time about movies because I'm passionate about it. Because I will have episodes eventually with somebody else in the room, and you'll listen and you'll see you'll hear they're a different dynamic. A conversation is completely different in tone to what I'm doing sitting here talking. And I don't know if I could get my points across with somebody else in the room. Now, it's going to be fun doing those episodes because I've got some really fun people lined up to come in and sit with me to do these episodes. But the main staple will always be just talking about movies, the emotions that they bring up in you, the emotions that you felt when you saw them for the first time, and then maybe when you saw them for the 100th time on home video, on disc, on download, Blu-ray, whatever, right? Because that's what makes it different. That's what makes what we're doing here different, in that If you want the movie review of the week, go somewhere else. Because I've yet to do that, right? The only thing I've done in any kind of topical manner was talk about Comic-Con. Because I had just gotten home and I was excited to talk about it. And eventually, I will come across that movie that comes out and I have to rush home and talk about it. And it would have been Guardians if I'd been in a better place when I was doing this podcast. If Guardians had come out this week, I'd be right on top of one, But I wasn't steady enough to do that. So eventually we'll do something current and topical, and that'll be a completely different dynamic because the movies that I'm talking about, the experience that I'm talking about are things that have been with me a long time. So when I talk about them, they've been distilling in my head for so long that verbalizing them comes naturally, and there's a lot of passion in it. I like to talk about that. I like to talk in general, So, hey, this is Jeff Tucker. This is 91 Reasons. The best way to support the podcast, like I always say, is go on iTunes, subscribe, tell your friends, share the link, go on Facebook, like the page, share the page, all that amazing social media stuff that can be done with just a click, Stop clicking about Blackfish for 10 seconds and instead click about something positive and share the 91 Reasons goodness all over the world. And we're so happy to see on Podomatic that we've got people in Ghana, New Zealand, France, UK, Canada, USA, all listening to 91 Reasons. Hey, thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week with a whole other episode about something crazy to talk about. This is 91 Reasons.
Thanks for listening to 91 Reasons. Please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Find us on Facebook. Is anyone even still listening?